From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And in the early 1940s, the Walt Disney Company and the Walt Disney feature films were forced into switching to make package films. This was due to the war efforts and some of the animators assisting in different ways with the war. Now, the war ended, but Disney had, a handful of feature films that were package films. Well, not only are we diving into the last film of the 1940s, but we are diving into the last of the package films for a long time. So with that being said, this is kind of the end of an era. We're going out on a high note of it, but today we're diving into the 15th Disney feature length film. Again, like we said, an anthology film, they call it a package film. And today, from October 5th, 1949, is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So, tell me about your thoughts of this film.
I mean, I don't know. I think I remember bits and pieces of it when I was little, but I don't know if I actually ever watched it.
Oh, we've watched it.
No, when I was little.
I know, yeah.
With you, I've watched it several times. It's good.
So, before we get the synopsis, this is again the final anthology film until The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which is the next anthology film because it's a bunch of shorts put together. Which is also kind of convenient because Winnie the Pooh also took over for Mr. Toad on the ride for the space of the ride at Walt Disney World. So that's kind of a convenient little transition there. I have many memories of watching this as a child, watching this in my grandmother's house. I loved it. But before I continue to talk about how much I love it, what does the synopsis say?
An animated adaptation of The Wind in the Willows, followed by an adaptation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Wow, they are to the point on that one.
Not as to the point as some of the others, but
So there's again, it's two shorts, The Wind in the Willows and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. One short is narrated by Bing Crosby and the other short is narrated by Basil Rathbone. Do you have any background or anything else before we dive into the first one?
It takes place in London.
Correct. So
For the background, if you want to know, like, kind of where the story takes place.
Okay. So the first section, the Mr. Toad section, was originally a full film based around The Wind in the Willows. 9 years prior to this, but after many delays, it was decided to be merged with Ichabod and the Headless Horseman. So you ready to go for it? So J. Thaddeus Toad is told to give up his horse and cart and cut off his foolishness. But he refuses. I mean, look at this face. He refuses. But then he sees something that completely blows his mind, and that's a motor car. The motor car blows his mind. It pretty much hypnotizes him, just like he saw the snake in Jungle Book. He was hypnotized. His eyes were spinning.
We haven't seen the snake in Jungle Book yet.
Spoiler. So he becomes obsessed with the motor car. he puts his whole life at risk for the motor car. I love the animation style of this section. Any thoughts on the early animation style, or even just the start of this one?
So the horse, I don't remember what its name was. Cyril?
Yep.
It really reminded me of the horse that was used by Goofy a few films back.
Yeah, so he doesn't talk much until the end when we're on the trial, but that's
But
ahead
he's
of
pretty
ourselves.
funny too.
He is funny. He has a famous voice, which we'll get to in a second. So my dear friend J. Thaddeus Toad gets caught stealing a motor car and put on trial. And then we get to meet the Weasel Gang, who I thought was so cool when I was a kid. What are your thoughts on the Weasel Gang?
I mean, you don't see them until after he's already in prisons and stuff.
When he's on
Really?
trial, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I didn't really have that many thoughts of them, but I feel like in the mansion scene there was a lot more of them than I thought there was.
I know that in the first time we see them, you said, "Have we watched this before?" That was the part where you were like, and I was
I'm
like,
pretty sure we've watched this before.
"Yeah, well, we watched it before."
Yeah.
So he is convicted, um, and we then find out that Mr. Winky framed Mr. Toad.
And during the time he's convicted, Christmas and New Year's pass while he's in prison. Just for some like time of year reference, if you care to know.
That's right, because there is a snowstorm,
I thought it was interesting.
which is the 14th of 15 snowstorms or storms that we've had. And Mr. Toad didn't get to experience it because he was locked up. So then we're going through the trial, and the horse testifies in the trial, and the horse, whose name you said was?
Cyril.
He's definitely voiced by the walrus and the carpenter actor from Alice in Wonderland, but we'll get there soon enough. But so Mr. Toad escapes, and he is certain that he is being set up by Mr. Winky and the Weasel gang. So they decide, him and his two friends, who are definitely based off of, what the heck is it? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. They definitely are. So they decided that they're gonna break into Toad Hall, and they're gonna steal the deed back to show that J. Thaddeus is innocent. But the weasels aren't going down that easy.
Yes, and when the weasels start to chase them, I thought it was weird that they're weasels, but they sound like a pack of barking dogs.
Yeah.
And I think I was like,
They're
why do they sound like dogs?
They're pretty punk rock
Weasels?
weasels. I think my friend and I should dress up as them for Halloween.
There you go, guys. There's your Halloween costume.
So they're not going down easy. The jig is up, and they're not going down without a fight. Clearly, my dear friend
Mr. Winky.
That's right. Mr. Winky is a bad man.
What kind of name is that for a villain?
I mean, look at him. We don't have any pictures of him. Is there any pictures of him on this? I doubt it, but
on the cover, no. And none on the back.
Yeah, he's definitely look him up. Well, even more importantly, watch the film because it's wonderful. So they decide to because they're stealing the deed, and they're stealing the deed back, and then they get stolen, and then they get stolen back, and then they get stolen. So they decided that they're gonna paper airplane the deed, and they're gonna send a bunch of paper airplanes to falsify so they can get away with it. And they get away. They ended up going the wall switches, something that we tried to do here. We couldn't figure out how to do it with the secret room. And
way to go. Now you told everyone.
We couldn't figure it out.
So now someone's gonna come to our house and start looking for secret rooms.
Yeah, well, we tried.
Who's to say we don't have one?
I just did. So
He just doesn't want you to know about it.
So the correct group wins.
We can be in the secret room right now.
Hanging out with Mr. Toad.
Recording.
So Mr. Toad and his group win. He's a free man. He regains Toad Hall. life is good. And then it ends up with we find out that he now has an obsession with airplanes instead of motor cars.
They actually reference it if you look at it online at all. They reference his obsession as like a mania, like he cannot
Yeah.
really control
I get
himself.
he is like hypnotized by this airplane now.
Well, I think they're referencing him to have bipolar and he's like in a manic phase and he can't control his impulses. And that's
So
why he's like, "Oh, I gotta go spend all this."
so he ends up, obsessed with the airplane now instead of motor cars. So, to use the pun, the wild ride continues.
Yeah.
This is a 10 out of 10 short. The animation is wonderful. The story is wonderful. The characters are wonderful. This is a 10 out of 10 short. This
No.
mug is going to be sitting here in every episode because he deserves it. He got removed from the parks. I don't actually remember if I ever even rode the ride. I have no idea, but I've watched it on YouTube many times because he's the best. I grew up watching this. Um,
I did not.
so it was wonderful. So then, unlike some of the other package films, we do dive right into the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to kick off the next one for us?
So, it's basically the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. So you meet Ichabod. He is a new schoolmaster in a little small village outside of Tarrytown, New York.
Correct.
Not this year, but last year I actually read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow for my Around the Year 52 Books challenge, and I don't know. Like, I guess all the animations and stuff like I grew up watching of Ichabod, they they make him very different than how the book made it. So I was surprised by the different comparisons because in the book, Ichabod's using everyone. Like, he might look like a wimp and stuff, but he's actually very smart and he like wants to take advantage of everyone. As in this, he's not a looker. He's a very interesting looking individual.
I mean, he's even played by Johnny Depp in a different version too. Like, there's a lot of different versions.
Ah, yes, that's
there's a
true.
lot of different versions of the Sleepy Hollow story.
In the Johnny Depp version, he is a looker. But
yeah,
I mean, he got me at Edward Scissorhands, so I'm a Johnny Depp fan.
So, well, that's a whole different thing.
But yeah, so he's a schoolmaster. He's kind of nerdy looking. Always has his head in a book. People seem impressed by him.
Yeah, but I will say because of this short and Scooby Doo, the thought of the Headless Horseman scared me a lot when I was a child. Because there's a lot of Scooby Doo with the Headless Horseman too. So
I could see that. Yeah.
he sent us an email about how he also scared you in the Scooby Doo one.
Well,
So you all know the story. The Headless Horseman, Halloween. Well, Ichabod Crane is on the cover here. You can see, but he is a very frail looking ladies' man awkward ladies' man who loves to eat food. He's way too skinny for how much food he eats in
he has
this.
a tapeworm.
Yeah, for how much food he eats in this. I mean, if you have a tapeworm, we're not judging you, so it's fine. But so we start off. There's we're in the town of New York, like you said, or in New York, you said.
Yeah.
The horse and dog get drunk.
There
like an elephant.
is a lady that hangs her head out the window that looks like one of the dogs off of Lady and the Tramp. I want to say her name's Trixie maybe. But like I want to say that this lady probably inspired that dog off Lady and the Tramp. Because I was like, that lady looks really familiar, and it took me a minute to like realize what it was from, but I think I even asked you that and you're like, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So Ichabod is walking with his nose in the book, but he's eating an apple.
Mhm.
So that's the return of the Disney apple is back. As I mentioned, he is way
Mhm.
too skinny for how much food he eats.
Yeah.
We do meet a character named Katrina that everybody's in love with, including Ichabod, and she has way too much cleavage for the 1940s. She is an animated cleavage person. Um, Sleepy Hollow is the inspiration. Sleepy Hollow is the inspiration for the little cottage snack shop in Liberty Square at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. And have we ever eaten there?
I have.
Yeah. It's like
They have chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
And they also have the like the waffle that I think it's got like Nutella and fruit on it. I always mean to get it and I always forget it's there.
Yeah. I mean, it's
But I did get the chicken and waffles
normally
one
way
time and
too
it was
hot
actually
for it,
really
but
good.
it's right there behind the castle in Liberty Square. Also, the Horseman is in the Halloween parade. So he, this Katrina person and Ichabod kind of hit it off. Her cleavage is much more than his skinniness.
Did you notice like you know how like you said like everybody has a crush on Katrina? Did you notice that one of the guys that had a crush on Katrina looked like very similar to LeFou from Beauty and the Beast?
No, because I was gonna say like Gaston, because like the guy at the end, but no.
Well, that's like the other, like his rival looks
Yeah.
similar to Gaston, I guess. But there is a guy in there that has a crush on her that reminded me of LeFou.
Well, because you got mad at me earlier for saying about the Jungle Book, the movies from now, we have not watched LeFou yet, so hold on a bunch of years. 40
You
to
don't
be
know who
exact.
LeFou is.
So
Google it.
before we get ahead of ourselves, there's a Halloween party, and
So we have celebrated in these two shorts, technically 3 holidays.
it's true. It's kind of like we're on the Carousel of Progress. So we go to a party on Halloween.
True.
And Ichabod's trying to court the lady, but everybody's trying
But he's
to
also
court her.
trying to eat like a giant
Oh,
plate of
he's
food.
just trying to eat food. That's all he does in this. I'm jealous. But there is the local that we mentioned earlier who's also jealous. So he tells the tale of the headless horseman, which is a tale in the town that is haunted by a headless horseman who comes out on Halloween. And
I don't even know if he actually like thought it was real. I think he was actually trying to just scare him.
yeah, yeah. So they're just trying to scare him away, but it does get under
because he's getting the guy that you said looked like Gaston. His name is Brom. I don't know if you said that or not.
I did not say that, but that is his name.
And he is technically, I guess, supposed to be the unofficial fiance of Katrina, and he is not liking Ichabod at all. So yeah, he does tell the story about the headless horseman because he was trying to scare him.
Yeah, so whether
and I guess he was hoping that he would leave early.
Whether they believe it or not, it does scare Ichabod though, because he's definitely shaken up about this story. So the party goes on and they're having a good time. So then the narrator says, when Ichabod's walking home on his horse, kind of like this shot in the scene of this cover right here. Ichabod is traveling home, but the narrator says that Ichabod was traveling home from the party at the witching hour of night. Now, I looked this up to verify. The witching hour is between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Man, that must have been quite the party if it went till 4 o'clock in the morning. And no wonder that the horse was so tired. So
he probably took a nap.
I mean, but he's yawning in the film.
Yeah, probably had to wake up.
4 o'clock in the morning. So the horseman shows up and he's as terrifying as he was when I was a child. And honestly, he should be involved and included in more scariest Disney villains lists. Just saying. But
and it's supposedly, I guess, like the reason why he wanted to tell him that story, other than to scare him, was he'd picked that one specifically because he found out that he was superstitious. Because at one point, like when Ichabod is making his plate of food, he actually, when he goes to salt it, he actually tosses salt over his shoulder. And that's where Brom gets the idea of, I'm going to tell him this and scare him.
Yes. Well, it worked. And honestly, it really worked because the horseman showed up. and he's chasing him,
Or did he?
and well, and he's running towards the bridge that
Yep.
the famous lore means he can't
The
cross the
covered bridge.
bridge. Yep, the covered bridge.
Yeah.
But I will say this is that no matter how terrifying the horseman is, he would make a great stormtrooper because just like them, he's awful with his weapon and he can't hit anybody with what he's trying.
He can't see.
It's true. Well, he's just throwing pumpkins and he's just failing miserably.
Well, I mean, he can't see what he's doing.
Yeah.
He can't hear what he's doing. I think his aim's pretty good considering he
So
has no eyes or ears.
so Ichabod makes it to the covered bridge and he's gone. The next morning, Ichabod is nowhere to be found except for his hat and a bunch of scattered pumpkin guts.
At one point, though, he had almost made it to the bridge, and he's trying to run as fast as he can with the horse.
Mhm.
And somehow, like, they hit a branch or something, and it spins him around, and then he realizes they're running towards the
Yeah.
horse instead of the bridge. So then he has to, like, turn around, and then he ends up, like, on the back of the horseman's horse.
It's cute.
It's very funny. I don't know. Like, as an adult, I could laugh at it, but as a children,
As a children?
yeah, as a children, as a child, I feel like it was definitely a thing that would have scared me, like the Scooby version.
Yo, we need to watch that because it's for real.
It is, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I found it humorous as an adult watching.
So he makes it to the bridge and then he's gone. And then the next scene it cuts and nobody in the town knows where
he's at.
Ichabod is. Whether some of them want to believe that the headless horseman got him,
Because
but-
all they found was his hat
and
and a
pumpkin
smashed
guts.
pumpkin.
Yeah. So then
And Brom gets to win.
Brom does marry Katrina,
Mhm.
but there is the rumor that the horseman got him, or there's also the rumor that Ichabod just left for another rich lady, another rich,
wealthy widow in a distant county.
probably because she had food. That's all this dude cared about was food. And
Yep.
then the storybook closes and the film comes to an end.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to touch on our friend Ichabod?
I don't think so.
So this one I loved. This short too is not quite as cute to me as the previous one, but I was a big fan.
I like the Sleepy Hollow version better than the Mr. Toad. I did like the two of them together, but if I had to pick, I would pick Sleepy Hollow.
Well, I don't see you having a Sleepy Hollow mug.
I don't have one. Someone buy me one.
That's rude.
Okay, don't buy me one.
Someone donate money for us to buy her one.
That's
just kidding.
Someone find a link for a Sleepy Hollow mug and send it to us.
So
Deep Diving the Magic Podcast at gmail.com.
Deep Diving the Magic Pod.
Oh, pod, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's just deep diving. It's not the deep
diving. So the storybook closes and it comes to an end. I love it. It's another great, very strong film. It ends the 40s. It ends the package films. It was worth the wait.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts and ratings?
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, deserve it. There we go. And what did IMDb give it?
You want to guess?
6.7?
6.8.
Yeah, they beat me. So I guess that brings us to the last List Upon a Star of the first, well, I'm going to say the first decade, but there was one film in the 30s. But the first 1930s through the 40s, the last List Upon a Star does The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad make your list.
Make it. And then I'm going to have to move some stuff down.
Okay. Keep going. Big money, no whammies, and stop. Yeah, read us what we got, my friend.
All right, so I got us starting off with Dumbo, The Three Caballeros, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Bambi, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Melody Time, Song of the South, and then Fun and Fancy Free.
Nice. Well, I have to tell you, I like how high you put yours, but I'm gonna do a little bit of moving around myself.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. And I'm gonna slide it down here,
Need some help.
please.
Goodbye, Fantasia. It's okay, you're still on my list.
So my current and to end of the 1940s list upon a star top 10 list consists of Pinocchio. Number 2 is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
I
followed
cannot
by-
believe it did not end up number one. Sorry to interrupt you,
Well,
but I'm kind of
there is some heavy hitters coming up. But
I'm
so
surprised that Pinocchio beat you for that.
we have Pinocchio. Well, if it was an entire short about Mr. Toad, it'd be different. But so Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Then we have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, The Three Caballeros, Dumbo, Bambi, Fun and Fancy Free, Saludos Amigos, So Dear to My Heart, and then my number 10 currently is The Reluctant Dragon. Remember that film? So we have made it. We survived the 30s. We survived the 40s. It was a great run of movies. Unfortunately, it was hampered by the war efforts, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, and they made the most of it. I would love to hear your top lists of the decade. Deep diving the magic pod at gmail.com. And then, again, we have Spotify, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, we have a TikTok. And just thanks for watching these films. And honestly, thanks for listening to us blabber about all the Walt Disney World Easter eggs, because that's kind of what we enjoy doing. That's what half my notes are. Thank you, as always, to Mr. Andy Has a Band for our theme song. You can check out his original work online.
Mhm.
I do hear that a rumor that he is gathering a group of very good-looking gentlemen to write and record a new album. But next week we are starting off a new decade. And we're starting off a new decade with a bang. A monumental film. A monumental film on our journey that someone at this table will have much better things to say than somebody else at this table. And of course, we are talking about from February of 1950. That is Cinderella. Look forward to it. We'll see you then.
Thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.
Bye.